Hello there, and welcome to Stanley Chess. I'm Stanley, and I played a chess game where about a 1700 rated opponent did not know what the square of the pawn was in the endgame. Let's check it out, shall we? So here we go. I'm playing with the white pieces, and I play e4, c5, we have a Sicilian. If you don't know what the Sicilian is, this is the Sicilian. I don't know how many times I'm going to make that joke. I play c3 for the Alpine Sicilian. d5, I go ahead and take, queen comes out, and d4. I'm kind of rushing through the opening because these moves are, they've been played thousands of times before, so I'm just rushing through them. Takes. So now I have an isolated queen's pawn. That means I have this queen's pawn, right, on the d file, with no neighboring pawns on c or e, so it's isolated, and it is a queen's pawn. How about that? What black is going to try and do with this structure is blockade my pawn so I can't push it, and try and trade down the pieces to an endgame where this pawn will be a liability because I have no neighbor pawns to protect it. What I am going to do from the white perspective is try and use the open lines that I have to create piece activity and try to make up for the fact that I do have this weakness here and hopefully push this pawn forward to open up the black position. So let's see what happens. Knight comes out to c6, knight f3 we develop, and bishop g4. Noticing this pin on my knight here, and it does have some pressure. Now, apparently the most popular move here is bishop e2, which I didn't remember. I glanced at it here, but I thought, okay, bishop e2, bishop f3, and queen takes d4, and I lose the pawn on d4. But what I missed, or what I forgot, is, because I have looked at this before, is that after takes, Zwischenzug, German for in-between move. I don't have to, take the queen or anything. I can take the knight with check. Zwischenzug to remove the defender. Since it's check, black has to respond, and then I win the queen. So that's a little opening trap. If you're ever playing the Alpine Sicilian, you can remember that. I didn't. Instead, I played bishop e3, defending my pawn on d4. We develop a few more pieces. He takes, and here, I already spoiled the move, but I had a decision to make. I could either take the queen or the bishop with my pawn or my queen. Computer says it's best to take the queen. I didn't go for this. After takes, we lose our queens. You take the knight with check, right? And then, the bishop gets opened up, and then you take. But this is just better for white. Why is it better for white? Well, this is a passed pawn at this point, so maybe, I don't know if black should have taken towards the center instead to keep it not passed. But this pawn's going to barrel forward because I also have my rook behind it already. I've got the bishop pair in a pretty open position, and it's just going to be, a pleasant game. But instead, I went ahead and took the bishop with my pawn. Point being, I get the open g file, and if black castles this way, that's going to be very good for me. I also do have the bishop pair, right? Which is also a good thing. And if black castles long, which he does, then I figure the king is going to be pretty weak on the open c file. All right, let's see how the game proceeds here. Queen gets out of the way to a5, and that's the second move with the queen. Bishop develops to c4, and e6, preparing to open up this dark squared bishop. Queen b3. Queen b3 was my idea. Here I was thinking about queen b3, bishop c4 to team up against f7 and b7, kind of opera game style. And what happens here is queen moves to b4, which is a bit strange, right? That's the third move with the queen since the start of the game. I've only moved my queen once. Do I take the queen here? No, I don't take the queen. Why would I take? No, I don't know. No, I've only moved once. I don't want to waste a move taking the queen and allowing his bishop to get active, or the knight even, and now I have to respond to this fork threat. I don't want to deal with that. So instead I say, okay, you want to trade queens? Fine, but on my terms. Instead, I'm going to use my time to activate my rook. And now, this dark squared bishop is going to struggle to get into the game because the g7 pawn will hang. So this open file is very nice, very nice. Remember, I have the isolated pawn. I'm not caring too much about my pawn structure. I'm caring more about my open lines, right? So black castles long. What did I say about that? That c-file looks mighty nice. Except I also castle long, so I don't know. I do that because my pawn was hanging, right? The knight and the rook were staring at it. So now the pawn is defended, my rooks are connected, and we're going to play a game of chess. He decides to take my queen finally. I take with the bishop so that I don't get this pawn structure, which is a bit too much, right? I mean, I've got 4 pawn islands, a bunch of doubled pawns. It's not pretty. In fact, if you check out this video up here, I'm not sure which side it'll be on, but I had a pawn structure very similar to this, and I ended up winning that game. So go ahead and check that out. But instead, I take with the bishop here. Check it out after you finish this one, though. I see you looking to click off. Nah. We gotta watch this game first. Okay, so the knight jumps into d5. Remember, black wants to blockade my pawn, right? So black goes ahead and does that. And I get my king off of the c-file to prepare my rooks to come over here and try to attack black while his king is still there. The good thing about my position is that I can move here, and this diagonal's not a problem because black only has a dark squared bishop. Whereas if black moves to b8, then I've got a dark squared bishop that could potentially take advantage of that diagonal, right? I mean, look at that. So black plays g6. This is good for me. I provoked this because how else is the bishop going to move without losing g7, right? Because of my rook. So black has to make a concession by weakening all of these dark squares. It's very nice for me, very nice. So I go ahead and chop the knight in the center. Now we both have isolated pawns in the center. So it kind of offsets my weakness because now he's got one as well. And I go ahead and play rook g5. Again, these dark squares, yeah, very nice, very nice. And now I'm piling up on d5. With the bishop and the rook, there's not a good way to defend it. Because if the knight tries to drop back, well, I mean, yeah, the bishop can still develop this way, but you are blocking the path. The rook struggles to get in as well. And after something like check and king b8, bishop f4, and this, ugh, what is this? Right? For black, I mean, what are you doing here? White is just killing. So, that's an option to defend the pawn, but instead, black makes a mistake and plays bishop to h6. Yeah, this attacks my rook, and, you know, it sees my bishop on the other end, but the bishop's defended. And this just cleanly gives up the d5 pawn for me, which is... I had to wake you up. It's good. It's good. I know you're falling asleep. Gotta wake you up sometimes. Rook takes, and bishop takes. I don't think that, you know, I mean, the thing about taking here is you improve my pawn structure. I've still got these islands, right? But after takes and takes, now we have a knight versus bishop endgame. Yeah, the endgame, I would call it. And I've got a beautiful center. I've got 3 pawns here, and they're just gonna go. One of them's passed as well. That's very nice. So what happens? The knight drops back to d8. Why? Yes, it's very passive, but it does defend f7. But it is a bit passive. I think computer said top move was like f6. Just, you know, pushing the pawn out of the way, keeping the knight here so that the rook doesn't start beating up the king. And, you know, this rook can come over here, try and stop the pawns. But instead, black goes back to d8. I give a check. King slides out of the way, and rook to c3, preparing a rook lift, possibly. You know, bishop staring at this. If the knight ever moves, am I in that? Also, I'm just defending my pawns on the 3rd rank. It's being flexible, holding everything together, and staying active on the only open file. So black goes to e8, you know, just kind of looking at my pawns. I just go ahead and push. I mean... I think I'm doing very well. When I was playing the game, I figured I'm up a pawn. I've got the bishop. I've got more activity. I've got the center. I have a passed pawn. All of these have to add together to a winning game. And it does. And I convert it so nice, except I do blunder later, but we're going to ignore that. f6, bishop e3, preparing to push the d pawn. and black goes knight c6. I'm not sure if this was the correct approach, but I went bishop a4 because I figured if I can trade the pieces into a king and pawn endgame up a pawn, it's going to be a win for me. So I go ahead and do this, and this forces trades because the knight is pinned to the rook. So we end up trading all of the pieces into a king and pawn endgame. And what is one of the most important things? You're going to learn something here. What is one of the most important things to do in an endgame like this? Bring your king! Very good. I know you got it, right? And if you didn't, we're going to pretend you did. Yeah, you got to bring your king. Yeah, you have a bunch of pawns, but why would you just start pushing your pawns with no help? There's no other pieces. Your king is not going to get checkmated in the middle of the board like it would in the middle game because there's no pieces to checkmate you. So bring your king. Walk up the board. Black does the same. But now look at this. I've got a more active king on my 4th rank. Black's king is on the 6th rank, or his 3rd rank. And I've got one more pawn. That helps. And just, you know, I have prospects of making passed pawns. I did the wrong move here. I should have played e5 and get this passed pawn, which is quite hard to stop. Because, I mean, you can even sacrifice the pawn. It's not necessary, but for example, sack the pawn and win this, and now in the time that black spends trying to win my pawns over here and push, all I have to do is either push these pawns all the way up and make a passed pawn over here, or just, or let's demonstrate, push, and black is just too slow, right? By the time black pushes these pawns, I will have already made a queen. So how about that? Instead, I played d5, which is the wrong move because the king can stop the pawn more easily. Yeah, so after takes, black now has a 3-on-2, which can be annoying. It can lead to drawing opportunities for black here. And black ends up stopping my pawn because I made this mistake. This was the real mistake. It blunders a draw, basically d6, because now the king just stops my pawn, and I can't go ahead and win these pawns right now because the e6 square is inaccessible, and the e5 square, because the pawn controls e5, the king controls this and stops my pawn. That was frustrating. I had to deal with that, but he blundered. This was still good, right? But this was a blunder. Now I'm winning again. Now I'm winning! Because it's just not correct. I don't remember what the actual correct move is, but I know that this was wrong to hold the draw. I think it might have been f5. I think so. Because after this takes. Oh, what is it? No, this is... Ignore me. I'm an idiot sometimes. It's okay. What happened in the game was I played a4 and f5. The second he goes f5, king e5, and he tries g4. Now, I don't take here. If you take here, you lose. This pawn promotes. So don't do that. Don't do that. Bad. 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 Instead, you take first and go here. He takes my pawn on d6, but I get both of these pawns. And now my h-pawn is just free to go up the board. And this is funny. He takes my pawn, I push, and instead of trying to take this pawn and push this all the way to the promised land, what he does is he tries to go and stop my pawn. But the funny thing is, I don't even need my king to, like, shoulder his king away or you know, push him away. Instead, I can just push. Why? Well, do you know what the square of the pawn is? The square of the pawn is a rule, a quick way to check and see if the king can stop your pawn. You make a square like this, and the easy way I do is draw a diagonal to the last rank, and then you can make your square with like a right triangle type beat. You make this square, and if the king can step into the square of the pawn on his move, then black can stop your pawn. The other king can stop your pawn. Here, you notice that this is not inside the square, right? Black cannot step into the square, so black cannot stop my pawn. But oh, he tries. Oh, he tries. Look at that. Just, what do you, like, he's got 6 minutes and he can't see that, and he resigned here because he finally realized, and I'm like, My king's just sitting here looking at his king like, bro, you know that you can't stop the... What do you do? It's like the pawn was Usain Bolt and the king was like me trying to race Bolt and trying to win, and then realizing only the last lap that I'm not going to win. Right? Because he's probably going to lap me like 10 times before I get around even like twice. I don't know. All right. Well, hey, that was the game. If you made it to the end of this video, I just wanted to thank you. Get rid of that chessboard. I wanted to thank you. I know that my recording quality has had some difficulties in the past few videos. I'm trying to work on it, so thanks for sticking with me. If you liked the video, make sure to like the video and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. And that's all I've got for you today. Have a good one.